Welcome into the Wilt Fong Whip Around with Steve Wiltfong. Today's Thursday, September 19th, and I am your host, Josh Newberg, and we got the best insider in the country, Steve Wiltfong, on the show. We're going to hit on some of the biggest developments that not only happened this week, but heading into a big visit weekend. So sit back for the next 20 to 30 minutes and just get caught up on all things college football recruiting. But first, guys, do me a favor and hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. So go ahead and jump on board for me, please. Also, I know some of you out there have been thinking about signing up for On3. Well, I can get you there for just $1. That's right, On3 for just $1. How do you do that? Well, go to on3.com and use promo code FONG1. That'll get you On3 for just $1 for everybody that's been on the fence. Now's the time. Go jump on board, on3.com, promo code FONG1. All right, let's get to it. Now, Steve, USC made a lot of noise this week. Lincoln Riley adds a 5-star wide receiver to his collection of now 20 commitments toward the 2025 cycle. I mean, remember just months ago when Juju Lewis was sitting there all by himself on that commit list? Well, now it's loaded. Jerome Miles, huge pickup from the state of Utah. What does it mean for the Trojans?
Well, now Julian Lewis will have maybe the best receiver class in the country coming to join him at Southern Cal. Jerome Miles adding to a loaded group, 6'3", 215 pounds, the state record holder for Utah in the 100-meter dash, clocking 10.36. He's got 4.4 speed in the 40-yard dash. He can beat you in a variety of ways. Obviously, he's a deep threat, but he's ferocious after the catch too, tough to tackle with the speed and ferocity he plays with. He also does the little things. Talking to On3 Director of Scouting Charles Power, he pointed to the way he blocks. Just a really good teammate, a guy that plays for one of the best high school football programs in the country. He'll arrive at USC college ready. Julian Lewis has to be ecstatic with the way the Trojans are recruiting the wide receiver position.
Yeah, with that elite size and speed combo, there's probably no other there's a couple wide receivers in the country that are going to be ready to make an impact, but Jerome Miles, he's college ready. All right, so do they need more at the wide receiver position? Because prior to the Jerome Miles commitment, we were hearing some rumors that maybe Dylan McCutcheon, who's committed to FSU, that might be a guy they double back on. But like you said, this is one of the most talented wide receiver rooms in the country right now, or class in the country right now. Do they need more wide receivers?
Yeah, Romero Eisen from Baltimore is another special talent who Georgia just offered this past week, but he's calling Julian Lewis QB1 on social media. USC was way out in front for him. How greedy do they want to get at wideout, Josh, is really what it comes down to. Same for linebacker. Their linebacker class is about done, but maybe they swing back around on a Madden for Ramo. I think it just kind of depends on how the rest of the class shakes out, how their season continues to go. But receiver is not really a need for the Trojans at this point in the cycle. I love their class. Jerome Miles, one of the most college-ready players at the position. You think about Drake London being a top 10 pick out of USC. Jerome Miles has that kind of upside as well. But Dalen McCutcheon is someone they continue to maintain a rapport with. Phillip Bell from in-state, committed to Ohio State, is another where the Trojans were a finalist. But I'm not so sure they need another wide receiver this class.
Yeah, and if I'm looking at what's next for the Trojans in terms of what do they need to do to finish this 2025 cycle, I'm looking in the trenches. You had a big report today about Bama offensive line commitment, Michael Carroll, and USC potentially getting involved there.
Well, Lincoln Riley knows what a championship caliber program looks like. He took 3 Oklahoma teams to the college football playoff, had USC right there on the verge in year one. They want to be consistently in that conversation. And with a 12-team playoff, I think the way that they're recruiting, they're trending that way, moved up to top 10 in the On3 recruiting rankings with the commitment from Jerome Miles. But they want to continue adding difference makers at the point of attack on both sides of the ball. I'm hearing the dialogue with Michael Carroll and his family has been really good. He's going to take an official visit. I think that checks the box of seeing some places he hasn't seen, getting out west, getting a feel for that vibe. But that's going to be a tough flip from Alabama. He originally chose the Tide over Michigan and Penn State, where his dad played. His mom played basketball at Michigan State. They got all those Big Ten ties in the household. But Alabama, the iron sharpens iron. not only the relationship with Alabama's offensive line, but some of their defensive players that when he took his visits were like, dude, we need you to come here, help make us better. That culture, that atmosphere, that's what he's looking for. He visited Miami this past weekend. He told Chad Simmons that strengthened his commitment to Alabama. I've talked to Michael. He said he's set on Alabama. I've talked to his dad. He said it's going to be a tough pull, but USC, they're going to shoot their shot, and we've seen them make that shot this cycle, right, Josh? Their official visit weekend 2 weekends ago, Jerome Miles visited. Coming into the trip, you would have probably pointed towards Utah and Texas A&M and said, hey, they were the leader for Jerome Miles. But coming out of the trip, USC closed the deal, basically. Ty Jackson, number one linebacker in On3's player rankings. He visits USC for the first time that same weekend. Coming into the trip, he had taken 8 to 10 visits to Florida, been to Florida State a bunch. That's where his mom went to school. He had an official visit to Florida State scheduled for Thanksgiving weekend. Then you got Alabama, Georgia, Penn State all in the mix. Commits to USC. So take your shot, get guys to campus. USC is a different kind of feel, right? It's a major town. It's a hub. It's not a college campus. Is that what a prospect's looking for when they get out to LA? I don't know if they realize the magnitude of it till they get there. All the NIL opportunities. USC's infrastructure is humming right now. And then certainly it's a coaching staff that's relatable. They've got a couple nice wins to start the season. They got a huge opportunity in Ann Arbor to keep it rolling this weekend. And if they beat the Maize and Blue on their turf this weekend, it's going to be crazy how things continue to ramp up for USC this cycle.
Yeah, it's trending really well. 20 commitments, with the last one being a 5-star wide receiver. So USC fans, talk to Steve and I. How do you want to see Lincoln Riley finish out this class? Who are your top targets? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, let's talk about the number one recruiting class in America, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And they've been holding this down for, well, at least the last couple of months. And right now, they're both trying to hold on to what they got, Steve, but also hit on a couple more targets before this thing's over. Let's talk about a couple of guys that they are trying to hold on to right now, and that's 5-star corner Naeem Offord and 4-star edge Zaire Mathis. What's the latest on both those guys?
Well, obviously Auburn's coming strong for Naeem Offord, but Coach Tim Walton's done a fantastic job with Naeem and his family. There's a trust there that not only will he take care of him off the field, but he's the coach to get him where he wants to go on the field, which is being the first corner selected in the NFL draft down the road. Ohio State, year in and year out, one of the best teams in the country, one of the most drafted teams on draft day. But the idea of staying home is easier for Naeem Offord. He's clicking with some of those commits to the Auburn class and sees that program as one on the rise. And Oregon is more than a sleeper for Naeem Offord as well. He's been there a couple times, looking to get him back for the Ohio State game. So we'll see what happens with him. But Ohio State prepared to battle for Naeem Offord, and they hope it turns out the same way Jeremiah Smith and Edric Houston's recruitments did last cycle, and less like Jeremiah McClellan, who ultimately flipped to the Ducks. And then Zaire Mathis, he's going to take his official visit to Ohio State for the Nebraska game, talking to a source around his high school football program. They think he's locked in with the Buckeyes. He did visit Penn State in the spring and the summer. They did acknowledge it's a long way to go until signing day, but he's still excited about his opportunity with the Buckeyes. He's going to official for the Nebraska game. So Ohio State still looks to be in good position to hang on to him.
All right, now let's talk about some flip targets. Ryan Day getting aggressive on the trail. I kind of wondered what Ohio State would do after missing out on number one offensive tackle David Sanders. Well, there's a new name on the board, and that's Damola Ajidahun, and he is committed to Georgia Tech, but Ohio State is not the only one trying to flip him. The Dogs have been involved here. What are you hearing on Damola Ajidahun?
Well, Ohio State looks like they're in good position to get him up for an official visit. They're still in the infancy stages of this recruitment compared to a Georgia, who's had him on campus a bunch. He nearly committed to the Bulldogs in the summer before ultimately going with Georgia Tech. But Georgia's still in the thick of that one. South Carolina battling, and Ohio State looking to heat up with him.
All right, kind of like Ajidahun, you have another defensive lineman here, Joseph Mbachu, whose recruitment, while he's committed to UF, I mean, he is openly taking visits. I think he's scheduled 6 or 7. Auburn involved here, Georgia, Texas. Now Ohio State is going to get him on campus as well. Do you think that they can flip him from UF?
Well, I wouldn't rule out Ohio State for any prospect, and obviously they went to Buford last year and landed Edric Houston. They have some Peach State ties all over that roster, which could help make him feel comfortable. Where does Ohio State specifically stand? I just think it's a program of intrigue right now. We'll see if that continues to grow.
Yeah, still really early, I feel like, with Mbachu. He was at Texas last weekend. All right, Ohio State, like we said, they're sitting at number one. They have been for a while, but to me, it feels like they're going to have to add some pieces to remain at number one. What do you think Ohio State needs to do to finish at the top?
Well, certainly that starts with hanging on to what's already in the fold. They got some elite players that programs are sniffing around on trying to flip. That would be detrimental to their case for finishing number one. I think it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to finish with one of the best recruiting classes in the country and one of the top hauls in the Big Ten. How high, we'll see as this season continues to play out. Look, they're hosting another player this weekend in state on 300 athlete Chaz Coleman, 6'5", 205 pounds. He's really starting to blow up. Penn State, the latest to offer. Ole Miss and Kentucky in the mix as well. He could play tight end. He could be an edge rusher on the next level. They snapped the ball to him in high school, but Ohio State's recruiting him as an edge. He's someone that I think that they'll offer in the near future. He would be a big pickup for him. He is a recent riser in the On3 rankings. So they're in on several high-ranking guys. They just got to close on them to maintain this number one spot while also keeping what's already in the fold in the fold.
Yeah, really, really good foundation on that class. But Ohio State fans, talk to Steve and I. How do you want to see the Buckeyes finish this 2025 cycle? Who are your top targets? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's head out to the Plains. We got to talk some Auburn recruiting. Another big visit weekend. Seems like Auburn's just playing at home every single weekend to start the year. This weekend, we're going to talk some flip targets that are on campus, and none bigger than five-star wide receiver out of the state of Mississippi, Caleb Cunningham, who is committed to Alabama. Did name Auburn his leader at one point during the summer, but is committed to the rival Alabama Crimson Tide. What do you make of this visit back to the Plains?
You said it. He's had Auburn at the top of his list at a juncture in this process. Mississippi State's been in that position before. Obviously, Alabama's in that position now. This is a recruitment that's going to go to the end despite his commitment to Alabama. They know that around Tuscaloosa. He was back on Capstone last weekend visiting with Alabama and company, but he's still making the rounds. Certainly there's been a lot of smoke around Ole Miss. He was at their opener. He's expected back at a big game or two with the Rebels later in the process, and still has his official visit to Ole Miss in play as well. But Auburn getting him on campus, getting him back around commits, getting him back around some top targets. It's a big opportunity to win an SEC football game against Arkansas on the Plains. New quarterback on under center, who's 1-0 as a starter, and Hank Brown. You got Deuce Knight coming back, according to Jeff Lee from Auburn Live, on top of a great recruiting class last cycle, kind of showing this wave of recruit, Caleb Cunningham included, where Auburn's going, and trying to get him caught up in it again.
All right. Shamar Arnaud, he's rumored to be at Auburn. You know, we're 48 hours out, so it's no lock that he's going to be there. But Shamar Arnaud, he's a cornerback committed to USC. He's from Carrollton, Georgia. How significant would it be if he shows up on campus this weekend?
Trending to get him on campus this weekend, and I think that Auburn's a program to watch with the USC commit. This is another regional defensive back that they like and would love to add, and if they get him on campus this weekend, we'll see where they continue to stack up next to USC.
All right, wide receiver Sam Carter, who's committed to Georgia Tech. This is a flip target that we've been talking about with a couple programs, but Auburn's going to get him on campus this weekend. What's Sam Carter looking for?
Well, it's obvious that Hugh Freeze and Auburn are looking to have one of the best offenses in college football, and to get there, they need the quarterbacks and wide receivers to play the style of ball that Freeze has been accustomed to playing throughout the course of his career. They recruited one of the best receiver classes in the country last cycle. Now there's a standard. Who are guys that can come in behind and be of the same caliber and push those guys? This is a young man that they view that way, someone that could do a number of things at the wide receiver position with them schematically. Auburn's a program that's been linked to him for a while now, so it's obvious that he has major interest in Auburn despite his commitment to Georgia Tech.
All right. Well, you can tell Hugh Freeze is at the helm of this Auburn program because all we talk about is flips. So we're going to wrap it up with another update on Notre Dame potential flip. Deuce Knight, Luke Nickel now getting involved with Auburn recruiting. He's committed to Miami, the quarterback. So We know Chad Simmons reported that Luke Nickel has been in contact with Auburn. Now, he says all the right things. He's committed to Miami. He says he's locked in. Does this have to do with Deuce Knight and him potentially sticking with Notre Dame?
Well, I think that you prepare for anything if you're Hugh Freeze in Auburn. Look, he's been around the game for a long time. You and I have been covering recruiting for a long time. Deuce Knight expected back at Auburn this weekend per Jeffrey Lee. We know he's got an official visit slated for the following weekend. So that would be 4 Auburn games and Big Cat weekend. There's the buzz that he wants to play in the SEC. Certainly, Ole Miss lingers in this recruitment as well for Deuce Knight, but you take nothing for granted. This is a young man that has not made any kind of public declaration that he's going to Auburn and decommitting from Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is looking to get him back either for this Louisville game, which is the same weekend that he's scheduled to take his official visit to Auburn. I think he'll be on the plains that weekend. But then there's the Stanford game, hearing that Deuce Knight could also return to Notre Dame for the Stanford game later in the fall. And then again, Ole Miss remains having dialogue too. I think when you add up all the intel favors Auburn to eventually land Deuce Knight. Yeah. But sometimes situations don't go the way the intel is perceived. And I think if you're Hugh Freeze in Auburn, you really need to land another potential difference maker at quarterback. They've already had some quarterback musical chairs with the roster this year. They got some young, talented guys that they like, but Hugh Freeze wants to make sure he is one of the best quarterbacks in the country under center. So he wants to stockpile them. So you take a swing at a Luke Nickel, Julian Lewis. Wouldn't be surprised. I think there's still dialogue with Julian Lewis, so maybe they come back around on him and put the full court press on the USC commit. But right now, there's no question that Deuce Knight is Auburn's top quarterback target in 2025. But no guarantees in recruiting, and so you continue to see who else is out there, who's interested. Luke Nickel is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think it's going to be a hard flip from Miami, particularly with the way Miami's playing and recruiting and the loyalty that Miami showed him. Again, you got to remember, Miami committed Luke Nickel before he was nationally known. He just came to camp and threw the ball well. That was before he was a state champion quarterback at Georgia, now trying to be a national champion quarterback at Milton High before going to Miami and trying to take them to the national championship. So Miami was way ahead of the curve on Luke Nickel. Yes, people are coming behind, but Shannon Dawson, Mario Cristobal knew what they had when they had him in camp, and he sees the vision for the program and is excited about the Hurricanes.
All right, Auburn fans, we just talked 4 targets, all of them flip targets: Caleb Cunningham, Shamar Arnaud, Sam Carter, Deuce Knight, maybe Luke Nickel. That would be 5, but let us know. Comments
earlier in the show.
Yeah, we did. Comment section below. How many of these flip targets can Hugh Freeze land in 2025? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, let's head to Baton Rouge. We got to talk some LSU recruiting. Important commits on campus this weekend: DJ Pickett, Harlan Berry, Zion Williams, Philip Wright III. These are just a few of the names, but to me, one stands out amongst the rest, and that's cornerback DJ Pickett, who has been taking some trips to watch the Miami Hurricanes in recent weeks. He was at that Gainesville opener. He went down to Miami to watch in week 3. So DJ Pickett now going to be in Baton Rouge. What do you make of this?
Well, obviously it's big because his last 2 visits were to see Miami play on the road and then Miami at home. And the Hurricanes are doing all they can to flip the number 1 prospect in the state. But DJ Pickett and his family continue to say all the right things. 1,000% locked in with LSU. He's excited to take in his first game day visit in Death Valley inside Tiger Stadium. LSU is a program that's led the most of the recruitment for him before he committed to the Tigers. Now, Hayes Fawcett on the Recruit Reaction Show confirmed what we had been reporting, that DJ Pickett, when he locked in his decision date, he was locked in for somewhere else, and LSU rallied to get that back full circle and get him in the fold. But he's excited about his future with the Tigers. He's going to be on campus this weekend. He's looking to get back for games against Alabama and Oklahoma. And one thing we typically know about a Brian Kelly football team, Josh, is that they're going to get better as the year goes on. They didn't have the week 1 performance that they were looking for again, but bounce back, got a nice road win in a raucous environment against South Carolina. Now I have an opportunity to take on a UCLA team that's limping into Baton Rouge and start building some momentum and make another college football playoff run. But DJ Pickett, he's excited about his future at LSU. Corey Raymond, his track record of development, that rapport that they have together, the other players in the class. DJ Pickett still feels great about LSU. This is going to be a great atmosphere, great opportunity to remind him why he committed, because Miami's still going to be pecking away. And I know he's saying all the right things, but again, we've been covering recruiting for a while. Sometimes we can foresee some things happening just based on history. So LSU, they got to play well. They're getting them back 2 more times after this, and then we'll see how Miami season continues to go as well.
Yeah, and I'm not downplaying this visit. We're going to talk about a flip target. We're going to talk about some really important 2026 guys. We're going to talk some quarterback talk in this segment, but there's no more important visitor this weekend than DJ Pickett. Getting him back in town after what, Miami's been working on. They really needed to get him back on campus. This will be huge. All right. Let's talk about a flip target that's visiting. Offensive lineman Mario Nash, you noted in your reporting that this Mississippi State commit has been kept warm by LSU, and this weekend he'll be on campus. What are you hearing on Mario Nash committed to Mississippi State?
Well, our colleague Chad Simmons broke the news that Mario Nash would be in Baton Rouge this weekend. And look, anytime you're talking about a Brian Kelly program, offensive line is always going to be a priority on the trail. He wants to recruit the best offensive line class in the country year in and year out. They've done that as much, and Mario Nash is someone that would be a great addition to what's already, again, one of the top offensive line classes in the country. Carius Kern's going to be back this weekend. He's one of the jewels of that group. But Mario Nash loves Brad Davis, loves the physicality that LSU plays with at the point of attack, and we'll see if they make a run here.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, a couple 2026 targets on campus. They're brothers, Blaine Bradford and Jacob Bradford. Now, Jacob Bradford is a Houston commitment in the 2025 class. I'm sorry, one's in the 2025 class. But Blaine Bradford is the number 1 safety in the 2026 cycle. So when the rankings get updated, he's going to probably be a 5-star recruit at one point. So my question is, Jacob a flip target who's in the 2025 class, who's committed to Houston, or is Blaine the priority here, the 2026 number 1 safety?
Well, Jacob has felt the love from LSU, talks to several members of the LSU staff regularly. Willie Fritz in Houston, obviously coming from Tulane, they have great ties in the state. They've done a really good job recruiting him, making him feel like a coveted target, top player on their board. And it's up to LSU to show him that, hey, they feel the same about him, and he's going to come in and get an opportunity to be just as competitive at LSU, that the staff's invested in him, and they feel like they have done that recently. So it's going to be interesting to see how that recruitment shapes up with him coming back to LSU this weekend. And then obviously Blaine Bradford, he's got a top 5. LSU's in the thick of that. He'll be back for the Alabama game later in the season. But it's a family affair. LSU's recruiting both of them.
All right, very cool. Now, talented group of young quarterbacks. LSU has just been knocking it out at the quarterback position. And here you go, 2027 number 1 quarterback Elijah Haven's going to be on campus. Colton Nussmeier, does that name seem familiar? He is the number 3 ranked quarterback in 2027. Also, Trent Seaborn, he's from Alabama. No ranking on him yet, but he looks promising. What do you make of this group coming in?
Well, Joe Sloan, Brian Kelly, and that coaching staff are looking for a quarterback that can come in and push On3's number 1 ranked player in the 2025 class, Bryce Underwood, the jewel of an LSU Hall that ranks number 3 nationally in 2025. Elijah Haven, Colton Nussmeier, those are guys that have the competitive edge, the talent to come in and be that guy to keep LSU's quarterback tradition going. Haven is as talented a dual threat quarterback as there is in the country. And then Nussmeier, obviously a coach's kid, a gritty, tough competitor that can make all the throws as well. So LSU, with Joe Sloan involved, they're going to be out in front, ahead, one of the best relationships with any quarterback recruit in the country. And then Seaborn's a state champion himself in Alabama, looking to win another one with Thompson this fall.
Yeah. I think LSU fans, I want to pick your brain on this. How do you feel about DJ Pickett? Have you been concerned about this Miami flirtation, or are you just happy he's back on campus this weekend and locking him in? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's head to Norman, Oklahoma, where maybe the game of the weekend is taking place on Saturday night. Oklahoma, Tennessee, lots of top 2025 commitments going to be on campus for this one. What do you like about the Sooners' 25 recruiting class?
Well, I think it starts with the offensive line. Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foji are as good a tackle combination as you're going to find. I know we've made a lot about Alabama and their offensive line class, and rightfully so. But you look at Oklahoma, they have arguably the best offensive line coach in college football in Bill Bedenbaugh, and they have a really talented offensive line class in the fold. Owen Hollenbrook also expected to visit this weekend from that group. And they're still got five-star Andrew Babalola out there, Josh.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about him in a couple episodes of Wilt Fong Whip Around, but I think Oklahoma, when you talk to several sources about that recruitment, he has as much dialogue with them as he does any of his finalists. Auburn, maybe he gets to the Auburn-Oklahoma game in 2 weekends. You got Michigan certainly in the middle of it. The dialogue with them remains strong, but Oklahoma and the Sooners, Stanford, Missouri rounding out that list of finalists. And Oklahoma, depending on who you talk to, they have as good a chance as any other program listed in the Andrew Babalola sweepstakes. And if they land him, it's hard to say that they wouldn't have the top offensive line class in the country. When you also add in NFL legacy recruit Darius Afalava, who chose the Sooners in the summer over Utah.
Yeah, really loaded 2025 class sitting there at number 11. Important 2026 recruits on campus. Running back Caden Jones stands out. He's the number 1 recruit in Oklahoma. Can the Sooners land him?
Yeah, they had him in camp 2 summers ago and offered him a scholarship. He's been to campus numerous times. He's excited to be on campus. No question, Oklahoma is one of his top schools. He also mentioned Tennessee is one of his favorites too, so a chance for him to see 2 programs that he can see himself at. Nebraska, Oregon, also in the mix, but Coach Murray and company looking to keep him at home. What an opportunity to make a statement in front of one of the most coveted running backs in the land.
All right, Ian Premer, the number 1 player in the state of Kansas, is going to be on hand, and also some really promising offensive line talent. What stands out to you who stands out to you that will be in Norman for this Oklahoma-Tennessee game?
Well, you mentioned Ian Premer, the number 1 ranked recruit in Kansas. He's the number 5 tight end in the country. He's excited to see Oklahoma's offense and game day atmosphere. We know that Brent Venables and his ties to Kansas, he's always going to be a factor for great players from that state. And again, it's a really good offensive line group. Vincent Johnson's an offensive tackle they covet that's back on campus. 4-star Will Conroy from the Midwest. He's excited to get his mom up there to campus. On 300 receiver Mason James is someone that's very high on Oklahoma. It's a good defensive line group too, from Kevin Ford, Danny Beal, Deuce Gerald, who's as productive a player as there is in the country. Those are 3 on 300 recruits that Oklahoma's looking to make a move with as well. So Oklahoma, this is a statement opportunity. It's tough to win games on the road at night. Tennessee looking to pull that off. The Norman faithful not going to make that easy. And these prospects are going to be inside one of the best atmospheres in college football this weekend. And we look forward to talking about it on the Recruit Reaction Show Saturday night with you and Hayes Fawcett.
Absolutely. All right, let's go down to Ann Arbor, Michigan, hosting USC this weekend. Big visit weekend. Linebacker Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng is in town. Looks like a 3-team battle for him, and he's going to make his decision relatively soon. Set the table for Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng.
Well, our colleague Chad Simmons with the story this morning that he's going to take an official visit to Texas this fall, and the Longhorns are looking to make up ground on Michigan and Notre Dame. There's been a little more buzz about Notre Dame than Michigan throughout the course of this recruitment, but I could easily see him wearing a winged helmet on the next level. He sees an opportunity to play early with what Michigan's losing on defense following the season. When he took his official visits in the summer, he said that trip to Michigan was his best one of the bunch. Just loves the way that the Wolverine strength and conditioning program works, the way they develop players. He feels very comfortable in Ann Arbor. Now, obviously, he's a Notre Dame legacy recruit. His brother, Jeremiah, won the Buckus Award in South Bend. Marcus Freeman and that staff go way back with the family. But if it's not going to be a gold helmet, I think Michigan has a good chance to land him. And this is another opportunity to get him on campus. And look, a lot's been made about Michigan and that ball game against Texas, but they have a chance to wipe the taste out of their mouth against USC. Dan Lanning's first game at Oregon, they got crushed by Georgia in the season opener, and people were second guessing that right away. They only rallied to almost make the college football playoff 2 years in a row, and had there been 12 teams in the playoff, they would have been in. That's what Michigan's looking at right now. Can they get back on track? Can they beat USC this weekend? It's time to forget about that Longhorns game. Huge opportunity against USC, and then certainly that could resonate with some of these top recruits like Owusu Boateng that are going to be in the stands watching a resilient Michigan team bounce back potentially.
Yep. Michigan going to have lots of their 2025 commitments on campus, which would be great, but it's a huge weekend for 2026 offensive line recruiting. And this is where Michigan really does a great job of getting in there early with some of the best offensive linemen in America. Steve, who are some of the priority targets that you're tracking that are expected to be in Ann Arbor this weekend?
Well, we talked about it earlier in the show with LSU. Anytime Brian Kelly's program is recruiting, offensive line is going to be a huge emphasis on the trail. And that's no different with Sharon Moore in Michigan. Sharon Moore, an offensive line guy at heart. They're in on some of the best offensive linemen in the country. And all these guys that are visiting this weekend, it is a return trip for them. Starting with on 300 offensive tackle Malachi Lee from Hawaii. He really enjoyed camping with Moore, Grant Newsome, and company in the summer. Zayden Krempen, an on 300 offensive lineman from Prosper High in Texas. He was at the barbecue at the Big House. He's excited to get back on campus. Tyler Merrill from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, maybe an old school Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State recruiting battle. He's back. And Brett Collegier, he had a fantastic trip in June. Also, another one that I could see Michigan having a chance to land. So 4 of the top offensive line targets for them in 2026 making return visits for this game. Well, that will do it for this week's episode of the Wiltfong Whip Around. Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure you hit like and subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel so you're up to date on all the latest, best information from the college football recruiting trail, from the Inside Scoop with Josh Newberg, the 5-Star Flex with Philip Dukes, our new recruit reaction show every Saturday following the biggest games in college football. We will be coming live right after Oklahoma and Tennessee on Saturday night, and certainly the Wiltfong Whip Around will be back on Monday to break down some of those big visit weekends that happened and some of the biggest recruitments in college football. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on Monday.